Hey guys, welcome back to another video of mine. So, in this video, I wanted to talk about something different, something I've never really done before, and that something is analyze a story. I'm huge into stories with meaning, whether they are fantasy or whether they are grounded to real life. I just love a good story that has impact on its viewers. Something that makes you feel good, or even something you can just relate to, good or bad. When I was younger, I used to think coming up with a crazy plot was everything. Or when writing a story, it needed to have a whimsical fantasy, superhero, mystery, or sci-fi story element to it. And it's not bad to write a story like that. There are many great stories based upon those genres. But as I got older, I started to appreciate the more grounded, down-to-earth stories. So much so, one day, I hope to write one myself. Sometimes the more grounded stories are the deepest ones, probably because they're easy to relate to. Which brings us to the topic of the video. Cat Bird Dog is a comic made by Eggbug Studio. They've posted their comics on a bunch of different social medias, including Instagram, TikTok, Webtoon, and YouTube, to name a few. Although they only posted 2 of them on YouTube, so I wouldn't go there to read them if you are interested. Anyways, let me start off and say, I love the comic series Cat Bird and Dog. This video is in no way hate towards the comic or the people who work on it. In fact, the people who work on it are very talented people. I love the artwork and the characters in the story, so I think that's why I got so disappointed. The story in Cat Bird Dog is so great, it's so grounded to real life, but yet so impactful and relatable, and then they have such a random shift in their story. Such a random shift, it's almost unbelievable. I first found their comics when I was scrolling through Instagram one day. The comic I saw was episode 13. If you have seen their comics, then you know exactly what episode I'm talking about. It's where Cat does the thing. But before I get into that, let me go back to the start of the comics and talk you through the whole story, as I can't really just tell you the story is great and then talk about the random shift in the story. You have to know firsthand how good this story was and how bad it got. And if you haven't read Cat Bird Dog and want to, maybe go read it before watching this video. It's on many platforms, as I already said, so if you have Webtoon, TikTok, or Instagram, you can easily go read it. But if you have already read it, or just don't care, then let's get right into the story. The story starts off with 4 episodes that are more on the episodic side, where it doesn't really matter if you watch them out of order or not. They were sort of just there to establish the 2 main characters, Cat and Bird. Episode 5 is really where this story begins. We get to see a flashback of Bird being bullied in school by 3 other animals, only for Cat to come and defend Bird from the bullies, and even befriend Bird. This flashback is shown to us as it is the first time Cat and Bird meet each other and establish that they are friends. Not only that, it shows us what the 2 characters' dynamics are. Bird is very quiet and more reserved, while Cat is bold and sociable. But nonetheless, these 2 are very good friends. After this, in each episode it's hinted that Bird has a crush on her friend Cat, but other than that, not much story happens. When episode 10 comes around, Bird is at a party with Cat, and Bird is finally confronted about her feelings for Cat by a character named Hyena. And Bird pretends she doesn't know what Hyena is talking about, as admitting to that is scary. And it's shown to us that Bird is still very confused about her feelings for Cat, and is still trying to process it. But at the same time, she's scared about these feelings and almost tries to hide them, or even push them away, which is honestly such a real thing many people go through. This is such a real situation. In episode 12, we take a moment away from Bird at the party, and we get to see Cat at the party having a good time, until she notices all the missed calls from her mom on the phone. She walks outside from the party. She knows right away when seeing her mom's missed calls that this is going to be a bad call. And just seeing her facial expression before she even calls her mom tells us all we need to know. She goes on to call her mother, and she says hi, and right away her mom asks where Cat is. Cat tells her that she's at a sleepover with Bird, as telling her she's at a party would clearly be a bad idea. Yet her mom is still angry with Cat and belittles her friend Bird, saying Bird is a waste of time and that Cat needs to spend her time more wisely, that Cat going to parties and having friends is stupid. Cat says, "I know, Mom," and hangs up. She takes a big chug of her drink and goes back to the party acting like her bold, bubbly self. Clearly, Cat is struggling. She doesn't think that poorly of Bird, and loves to spend her time hanging out at parties with her friends, but she agrees to what her mother says, as it's easier to agree than stand up for herself, and she hides her struggles and puts on a smile for others. People do this. People try to hide or push away their problems and put on a fake happy face for others. This is another very real thing people deal with. And I'm glad we get more insight on Kat. Before this, we never really saw much of how Kat was feeling, as she always seemed to be feeling super positive. But now we know that isn't always true, that Kat hides bad things and puts on a happy face for others. We finally have reached episode 13. This is definitely one of the most talked about episodes in Cat, Bird, Dog. I mean, it's the one I first found, probably because it got a ton of views and traction, because something crazy happens, and we get to see Kat in another light, one that isn't great. Kat comes back into the party, very drunk, and finds Bird. She tells Bird to come to the bathroom with her, and the two go off to the bathroom together. Kat asks Bird if she wants to do something fun, and Bird says yes, not really knowing what Kat is implying. Kat comes over and kisses Bird, and Bird is shocked by this at first, but then closes her eyes as they kiss. Kat pulls herself away from Bird, tells her, "You should see the look on your face," and walks over to the door, and before leaving, Kat says, "Who doesn't love a drunk kiss between friends?" And as Kat leaves, we see Bird immediately feeling horrible. This was a crazy episode. It made some viewers hate Kat afterwards. Like, the comments are insane. I honestly recommend checking it out for yourself. And yeah, Kat did a pretty bad thing to Bird. There's no denying that. With this said, I honestly don't believe Kat knew Bird had a crush on her, and I don't think she knew Bird was a lesbian either, as Bird never told her she was a lesbian, as Bird is just realizing all these feelings she has for Kat now. Although even with this all said as well, I still think Kat was in the wrong to kiss Bird without asking for consent. Yes, she asked Bird if she wanted to do something fun, but it was so vague, and how was Bird supposed to know that doing something fun meant kissing Kat? In episode 15, we can see Bird walking out of the bathroom feeling shocked. At first she starts thinking, what if Kat also likes her too? But as she is thinking about it, she looks over and sees Kat flirting with a boy. She starts to cry and runs out of the party. She thinks about how all the other animals who told her she was a lesbian were right, and she starts to feel sad about this reality, that she does in fact like girls, as she is just figuring this out now, and it's scary for her to come to terms with it, with who she is. In episode 17, we see that Bird is sitting outside having a smoke, and she looks down at her phone that has many missed calls and messages from Kat, and she looks back up, and then she stands up and walks off, away from the party. In episode 18, we get to meet the character Dog for the first time. It's weird to think it took this many episodes to meet the other character that's a part of the title Cat, Bird, Dog. Anyways, we see Kat looking around the party for her friend Bird, and Dog notices this, and comes up to Kat to check in on her to make sure she's okay. Kat explains that she's lost her friend, then Dog starts to help Kat search for Bird. This episode isn't really too important, it's just the first time we meet Dog in the story. In episode 20 and 21, we see that Kat and Bird are both at home in their own beds, meaning that the party has passed and is now over. Bird is still not responding to Kat, as what Kat did to her was traumatic, and that's honestly fair. Bird needs to take time to process everything that just happened. That would be a lot to go through. But of course, Kat doesn't even know what she did wrong, so Kat is understandably worried about Bird, and why Bird isn't responding to her messages. But this is where Dog really starts to make a presence in the story. As Kat worries about Bird, he texts her asking if Kat made it home from the party safely. And Kat and Dog start texting and calling and even hanging out after this. They start becoming friends, and Kat posts about Dog on her stories. In episode 26, Bird sees these story posts of Kat and Dog hanging out, and it really bothers Bird. She starts to wonder if they are dating and gets sad about the idea of that. But right after this all, she gets a text from Hyena, the character from before at the party, the one that was confronting Bird about having a crush on Kat. Hyena asks Bird if she wants to join her to see her friend's band, and of course, Bird, who's been in bed moping all day, realizes she needs to get out of the house, and she goes to hang out with Hyena. Now after this, we see Kat and Dog getting closer as friends, and we see Bird and Hyena hanging out and bonding as well. It isn't until episode 33 where things really start to pick up. Hyena, if you can already tell, is also a lesbian, and Hyena tells Bird she's pretty cute. Bird blushes and then starts to lean in to kiss Hyena. In episode 34, we see that Hyena stops Bird from kissing her. She tells Bird that she still has unresolved stuff with Kat, and that Bird needs to go talk with Kat about it first. Because, rightfully so, Hyena doesn't want to be involved in all that, and it's so nice to see a character like Hyena. She isn't mad at Bird for going in to kiss. In fact, she clearly likes Bird, but she knows it's not a good idea for Bird to get involved romantically with her before resolving things with Cat. And Bird understands Hyena and realizes she does need to have a talk with her friend Cat. So she texts Cat and asks to meet up and talk. In episode 31, Dog and Cat had a chat with each other as they were gaming. Cat was confused on why Bird wasn't messaging her back since the party, and Dog told Cat that kissing Bird was probably the reason. He goes on to say that Bird is likely sensitive to that, and that Bird might be gay, and that kissing her out of the blue without consent was wrong. And I really liked this conversation. A lot of people were hating on Dog at this time because it was clear that Cat and Dog were hitting it off. And obviously there were a lot of people that shipped Cat and Bird. But I feel like that's unfair to Dog. It's not his fault after all. It's Cat's fault, in all honesty. Dog is just being a good friend to Cat, and in this episode, he proves himself as a good character even more. He tells Cat the hard truth about how she treated Bird, and she needed to hear that. She needed to know that she was in the wrong. Episode 36 is when we finally get to see Cat and Bird meet up and talk to each other. Cat tells Bird right away that she is so sorry and that she overstepped Bird's boundaries. And as Cat is telling her this, Bird chimes in yelling, "Cat, I have a crush on you." And it's after this that things get tough for Bird. Cat tells Bird that she doesn't feel the same way, and that she doesn't know if she likes girls in that way. But even so, she'll always love Bird as her best friend. This is clearly very hard for Bird to hear. To hear that the one you've been crushing on doesn't like you back. This is a very real thing that many people experience. All kinds of people, and it especially is relatable for anyone who is a lesbian, who crushed on someone that didn't feel the same way for them. I love that this story chose to go in this direction. They could have made Cat find out that she also likes girls and end up falling in love with Bird. And yeah, that would have been super cute. But instead, this story shows the other side of this same situation, the harder outcome, where Cat doesn't feel romantic interest in the same way Bird does for her, and where Cat now feels terrible for overstepping her friend's boundaries. But all they can do now is move on and continue life as who they are. It's a real thing that happens to people, and I love this story for showing that to its readers. In episode 38 and 39, we can see that the conversation ends the two off in tears. Cat apologized, and Bird accepted her apology, although Bird tells Cat that she needs time to think stuff over. They both say, "I love you," to each other, and then walk off in their own paths. Still tearing up, as this was a hard conversation. They may have resolved things, but that doesn't mean it's all of a sudden all peachy. They are both feeling sad about everything, and that's understandable. Now, I feel like I covered the main story. Of course, they have a bunch of episodes after these that are also important to the story too, but it's more like two different stories, where one's focused on Bird, and the other is focused on Cat and Dog. In Bird's story, she tells Hyena that she resolved things with Cat, but that she's taking time away from Cat to think about everything. And Bird decides to go see her mom to tell her that she is gay. Of course, she doesn't do it right away. It takes a few episodes for her to finally come out to her mom. As that's scary for Bird, coming out to her parents is a hard thing to do. And when she does, she bursts into tears, but her mom is very supportive about Bird being gay and says that she will love Bird no matter what. It was a really good story focused on Bird and her mom, and again, very real. Like, this is something so many people go through. Anyway, after this, Bird leaves to go back home. While Bird had her story, Cat and Dog had their own going on. They basically were just hanging out and getting closer as friends. It almost feels like Dog is filling Cat's void, as Cat doesn't have Bird right now. We get some cute scenes where Cat feeds Dog mochi, and he blushes for Cat, and where Dog makes Cat spaghetti, and Cat tells Dog he was sweet for making her food, and then immediately starts yapping about her exes. Even though she says bad things about them, I just feel like that's wrong to bring up exes around someone you potentially have a crush on. I mean, maybe Cat doesn't like Dog like that. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be too bothered by it either, so maybe I really am just overanalyzing this. Anyway, after the two stories have concluded, we reach the point where Cat, Bird, and Dog all meet each other. Cat, Bird, and Dog all end up going to the same grocery store, not knowing the other is going. Bird bumps into Cat and Dog, and it is extremely awkward from here on out. Mostly for Bird and Cat. Dog isn't really feeling too awkward here, though. And then this is where our story hits the shift that I talked about earlier. That's so random and unexpected, which is the reason why I felt compelled to make this video in the first place. So I haven't mentioned it yet, but in episode 41, we see Bird looking out the window at the night sky, and we can see in the distance that there's a wizard flying in the sky. And hey, that's a cool little add-on to this beautiful drawing. Then in episode 42, there's a police officer who asks Bird if she's seen a man in a starry cloak and hat. She says no, and the policeman moves along, and we get to see a wanted poster for this wizard. But after this, things get back to normal, and good riddance for that. In episode 56, we see a news reporter on TV talking about the wizard in the background of a dog-focused story. No, the dog-focused story was not important to the plot, for anyone wondering. Anyway, these were all fun hints at this wizard character, and everyone reading the comic thought it would end up being a small plot line, like maybe just an episode, or that it was just a silly background joke, and that it would never be anything more. Nothing important, at least. But it ended up being more. And, unfortunately, this is where a great story takes a turn for the worse. Episode 61 is where a random wizard pops out of nowhere and grabs Cat and flies on over to a portal to take her with him. Then after Bird and Dog see this happen, they decide to run into the portal where the crazy wizard went with Cat. I'm not making this up, but it sure sounds like I am. It just doesn't make any sense. Why did they feel the need to go with something so random? As the story was grounded with characters and a plot that we can relate to, this ruins the story as it completely changes the whole narrative of the story from before. Everything we have seen these characters go through just gets chucked out of the window for this random, out-of-nowhere story with the wizard. It's so disappointing. Like, I was actually upset when I first saw this episode unfold. And it doesn't get any better after this episode. We see Bird and Dog fall from the sky and hit the ground. As they look up, they see Cat being taken away by this wizard to a tower. Like, what? When? Why? Bird asks Dog where they are, and Dog says, maybe Australia? Like, Dog. Oh my god. Don't make me hate you now, too. I was always a Dog fan, but honestly, I might have to rethink that after that line. Then they hear barking noises, and look over to see a realistic 3D modeled dog. Why is it 3D? Why are they anthropomorphic but the dog isn't? I don't know, and I don't care at this point. And as it starts to bark and come closer to them, they run away from it and head into the village. And as this is all going on, we get to see an episode about Cat and the wizard character. She's stuck in a cage and asks him to let her out. She asks who he is, and he says he's the wizard. And he says the reason why he kidnapped her and put her in a cage is so someone will listen to his entire retelling of his favorite video game plotline. I'm done. Like, that actually makes me so mad. And it makes me sound so stupid too. Like, why am I getting so worked up about this random comic? I guess because I had faith in this comic. This is something so unique to a lot of other comics right now. I loved how it was so grounded to real life, and that it showed off very real and hard situations people go through, with characters we can all relate to. I love stories like that. So for it to take such a random turn into some fantasy nonsense just upsets me. It honestly is such a waste in potential. This could have been so much more. And yet, I still love the story and these comics. I just hope it doesn't stay on this random wizard plotline for too long, and gets back to the comic that everyone loves. A lot of people are saying that they did this to give Bird and Dog a chance to understand each other as they go off to save their friend Cat. But like, they didn't have to choose this story plot to showcase that story. I know for a fact they could be writing something better right now, as they have already wrote such a good story. So, I just hope that Cat, Bird, Dog gets better from here on out. And that's what I wanted to talk about for this video. So, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think about this comic, if you have read it before or not, and how you feel about this wizard storyline. But anyways, it's been Leamon Puppy. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys all next time.